Today's lesson is on special right triangles, 30, 60, 90 degrees. Here we're going to be solving for sides, and there's a special ratio for this type of triangle. Yesterday we talked about the 45, 45, 90 triangle, and we get that from a square. And today, to get the ratios for the 30, 60, 90 triangle, I'm going to use an equilateral triangle. So when I have an equilateral triangle, I know that all three angles are 60 degrees and all three sides are congruent. Oh, excuse me. Okay, so let's do the same scenario that we did yesterday. So let's start out with, if I say each side is 4 and I draw in the altitude, so this time I'm drawing in the altitude. So I'm going to split my 60-degree angle into two 30-degree angles. And I'm going to split the side from 4 into 2 and 2. Okay, so I am going to look at this left side triangle. And taking a look really quick, I can see across from 30, I am 2. Across from 90, I am 4. So I need to solve for the altitude, this leg here. So the leg is going to be the hypotenuse squared, so 4 squared, minus the other leg squared, which is 2 squared. So this is 16 minus 4. I'm going to take the square root, which is the square root of 12. So this is going to be 4 times 3. 4 is my perfect square, so 2 times the square root of 3. So this is 2 times the square root of 3. Okay, if I start out with my hypotenuse being 8, the short leg is across from 30 is going to be 4. And the long leg, which is going to be 4 times the square root of 3. So if my hypotenuse is 12, my short leg is 6, and my long leg is 6 times the square root of 3. So when I start out with, and my hypotenuse is 2 times x, my short leg is x, and my long leg is x times the square root of 3. Okay, so to go from the hypotenuse to the short leg, I'm going to divide by 2. So to go from the short leg to the hypotenuse, I'm going to multiply by 2. And to go from the short leg to the long leg, I'm going to multiply by the square root of 3. Okay, so to go from the long leg to the short leg, I would divide by the square root of 3. So I'm either multiplying or dividing. So I'm looking at the relationships. Okay, so what does the pattern look like? I see 30, 60, 90. So my hypotenuse is 2x, across from 30 is x, and across from 60 is x times the square root of 3. Okay, so we are going to use this table. So whatever is in my triangle, this is what I'm going to fill in across from these sides. So I'm going to use the ratio 1, square root of 3, 2. Okay, let's do a couple examples. So how can I identify a 30, 60, 90 triangle? Well, I can see if I have a 90 degree and a 60 degree. I know by triangle sum that this has to be 30 degrees. So the same thing is true. If I have the 90 and the 30, I know this is going to be 60. Or I can be given all three. So I just need to know 2 of the 3 angles, and I know I have a 30, 60, 90 special right triangle. Okay, so I'm going to start by setting up my table, 30, 60, 90, and my ratios, 1, square root of 3, and 2. So across from, here's 30, across from 30 is x, across from 60 is y, and across from 90 is 18 times the square root of 3. Okay, so I'm going to do the same thing. I have 3 equivalent fractions. So I need to solve for the 2 variables. So I'm going to set up 2 equal fractions. Well, one of the fractions I have to use has to not have the variable. So I need to use this as one of my 2 fractions. And then to solve for x first, I'm going to set up as 1 over x equals 2 divided by 18 times the square root of 3. So x equals 18 times the square root of 3 divided by 2. I know I can simplify 18 divided by 2, so I get x equals 9 times the square root of 3. And then for my second fraction, I still am going to use the same piece of information I have. So I'm going to say the square root of 3 over y equals 2 divided by 18 times the square root of 3. All right, so solving for y, I get y equals 18 times the square root of 3 times the square root of 3 divided by 2. So I know that square root of 3 times the square root of 3 is 3. And 18 divided by 2 is 9. So I have 9 times 3. So I get y equals 27. Okay, let's try one more. This is the same process for whether I'm talking about 45, 45, 90 or 30, 60, 90. I'm going to set up my table with my ratios. The ratios are different for the triangles. Okay, so now across from 30 is x. So this is 60. Across from 60 is 15. And across from 90 is y. Okay, so I have to use the fraction that has no variable. So I'm going to solve for x first, but it doesn't matter. I can do x or y. So 1 over x equals 2 divided by y. Oops, I'm sorry. I wrote the wrong equation. Square root of 3 divided by 15. So x equals 15 divided by the square root of 3. Now I have to rationalize the denominator, so I'm going to multiply times the square root of 3 over the square root of 3. I get x equals 15 times the square root of 3. And the square root of 3 times the square root of 3 is 3. And then I can simplify 15 divided by 3 is 5 times the square root of 3. I would solve for y. So this is going to be the square root of 3 over 15 equals 2 divided by y. So y equals 15 times 2 divided by the square root of 3. I need to rationalize the denominator. So square root of 3 times the square root of 3. I get y equals, so 15 times 2 is 30 times the square root of 3. And square root of 3 times the square root of 3 is 3. So now I can simplify 30 divided by 3. So I get y equals 10 times the square root of 3. Okay, that's it.